SLA or second language acquisition is one of the most discussed and studied issues in the study of linguistics, especially when you are studying English linguistics and you want to have a look on learning a second language. Then this particular topic, that is issues you need to know in SLA, will help you to understand about the related issues during acquiring a second language. This particular slide narration come video will also help you to know about the basic of second language acquisition. It will help you to understand what do we understand by acquisition and what will we refer to second language. And of course, this particular narration is developed by me, that is Mohammad Nasim Firdaus, and I have taken help from Rod Ellis, Stephen Krashen and other sources to develop this particular narration. So I would like to welcome again, and I believe as a part of this course, that is Introduction to Linguistics, this particular topic will help you to understand the later courses which is to come in the later semesters. And this particular course is designed in such fashion that it may help you in the later courses. For example, in Introduction to Phonetics and Phonology, and then Structure of English, and then Introduction to Sociolinguistics and Psycholinguistics, and Introduction to Second Language Acquisition. Yes, you have a whole course on second language acquisition, and of course in language teaching and learning related courses like English language teaching and methods and materials and student teaching. All will have connection with this particular course. So that's why I want your complete concentration on this particular topic as well. So let's start with the contents. What will we have today under this particular topic? So the contents for today are SLA, that means second language acquisition, and then we will be explaining about key issues in second language acquisition, and this narration will end through the framework of SLA, that means second language acquisition, the framework. By identifying this framework, we will have a detailed knowledge on acquiring a second language. We will know what are the structures we need to follow to learn or acquire a second language. So let's start with the second language acquisition, the first one. SLA or second language acquisition as an all-inclusive term for learning any language after the first. So that is very interesting, because whenever we referring second, so does that mean that the language we learn after our mother tongue or after our first language? Now the question also raises, what do we mean by first language or native language? Are the same? Are this very similar, that first language or native language? No, that might not be. Your native language could be different to your first language. Maybe it is different. It may be different. For example, you're born in Bangladesh and your native language is Bangla in there, but after birth you moved to England and your first language became English. So it could be different, but for most of us in Bangladesh, our first language and our mother tongue are same. So does that mean that whatever the language we will learn after Bangla language or after our first language, after our mother tongue, will that be called as our second language? And I believe that in Bangladesh, as you know, most of the people are Muslim and they practice Islam, and as a part of that they learn Arabic whenever they recite Quran, or they try to learn the language, not language but the elements which is necessary in the religion. So can we consider Arabic as a second language, at least for them? No, we cannot. We cannot, because if you want to generalize this term second language acquisition, it will be like this one, and under this term your Arabic language will be considered as second language. But whenever we will be trying to learn a language with a formal setup, that means the language will have official declaration or establishment in that particular language community, and that is the time we can consider a particular language as second language acquisition. For example, in India, English is considered as second language acquisition, a second language. So, and here by this term acquisition, it refers the incidental process. Incidental process means when you learn subconsciously, when you do not focus about any particular issue, but still you can learn it. For example, I believe most of you did not go to an institution or a school to learn how to have a change or wear a dress. You did not go to any institution, but still you can learn, because you learn from a subconscious environment. You learn, and whenever you have seen your parents or friends or relatives or others doing that, maybe they went to a shop and they have bought something in the shop, and you have seen how to change and how to give the money and take the product, and in exchange your parents or your brothers or sisters or any relatives, how they have bought the things and what are the procedure they made or produced in there. And by seeing that, you have learned how to have a change. So that's the process we are referring as incidental process, which we are referring as a subconscious process. That means you are not conscious about that. But considering this particular course, especially in this particular slide, wherever you are learning about second language acquisition, it is very much focused. You are here to learn this particular topic, so you are a conscious learner, and that's why I cannot say that you are learning subconsciously. So that means this learning will not be considered as acquisition but learning. So key issues and SLA. So what do we understand? What do we refer by these key issues? Second language acquisition is the study of change that takes place in the learner's L2 knowledge. So whenever you will be acquiring a knowledge, it will produce a change. It will make a change in your L2 knowledge. That means your second language knowledge will be developed, and it will be developed over time, and of what brings about this change. And that means how you have changed this knowledge. For example, first you started to know about the basic elements of English language. For example, maybe that could be A to Z letters. Later you know that you need to put together the letters in order to have words, and you need to put the words together in order to have sentence, and you need to put sentences together in order to make a meaning. So this particular knowledge will be developed over time, and that is how you change. You will have changed on your second language knowledge, and that's what we are referring. And during having this change, we need to know what are the other issues which initiate these changes. So that's what we are looking for. Let's start with the first one, that is SLA as a uniform phenomenon. So whenever we are referring uniform, we are referring that the common thing, everyone will do the same. For example, in our school life, we had, most of us had a school dress, maybe all white t-shirt and navy blue pants in there. So most of us had this kind of uniform in there. So if I consider SLA, whether it is for all, it is same for all, but it is not uniform, or it is not predictable phenomenon, because you cannot wear a t-shirt to everyone. It will not match to everyone. So learning a language will not be similar to everyone. It cannot be predicted for everyone, because SLA is the product of many factors pertaining to the learners and the learning situations. So it is related to the learners and learning situation. What are your learners and what are the learning situations will be mostly dependent on the relation of these things. That means second language issues. So it is one of the many factors. And different learners in different situations learn L2 in different ways. Yes, they learn in different ways. Not two learners learn a language in a similar fashion. For example, me, the way I have learned English language might not be you who are learning English language at this moment. So it might be different. And SLA versus FLA, that means fast language acquisition, are the same. Second language acquisition versus fast language acquisition. So what are the things we need to look at? SLA is the study of how learners learn an additional language after they have acquired their mother tongue. So first you have to understand or learn the mother tongue, then you are going to learn the additional language, and that additional language is referred as second language acquisition. But if you want to consider the fast language acquisition, and the study of language learner language begin with the study of fast language acquisition. Language learner language, so that means language and learner language. So it can be varied. Like for example, we consider English as a language, and the language you have learned, I mean, you tried to learn English language, but you have learned differently. That's why your language cannot be called as English language, rather can be isolated as a learner language. So whenever we will be referring as this one, so this will be very much related with your fast language acquisition. Second language acquisition versus foreign language acquisition, so are the same. I mean, these issues are here because whenever you will be trying to acquire in language, all of these things will come together. For example, as I said, in order to have a second language status, it need to have an official status. So whenever there will be an official status, there will be an immediate environment. The learner will get lots of exposure about that particular language, and whenever the learner will have that opportunity, then he or she will be participating in natural communication situations. And I can say, but if the language is not a second language, it is not declared as second language, rather it is referred as a foreign language, and the situation is foreign language learning situation, then the speaker or the learner will not have immediate involvement. But of course there will have other sources to have this knowledge, especially most of them are receptive skills. So let me explain this. For example, as I said earlier, that English has an official status of second language in India. That means if you live in Mumbai, but you need to go to Delhi for an official work. You must have to use English as second language in order to have communication. So after your mother tongue, definitely you need to learn English language, as all can understand. So that's what we're referring as immediate environment. But in Bangladesh, English is not referred as second language. So the application of English is very much limited. That means we do not get any real life opportunities to practice or participate in English language. But of course we get the focus of English language or exposure of English language through mass media, and that's how we can listen English language. That is what receptive skill. So if you can distinguish, if you can separate these situations, you will be able to understand that how is it important to have this status, and that is second language acquisition for learning a language. So competence and performance. Competence is what we know. For example, I know how to operate a computer. So the knowledge I have in my mind is referred as competence. And whenever you will see me, you will observe me or watch me operating a computer, or during the time I am operating the computer, or if I can operate a computer or complete a task through a computer, it will be referred as performance. So competence is the mental representation of linguistic rules which constitute the speaker hearer's internalized grammar. So that means if I take it into language learning, then if I know the rules, if I know the structures of a language, that will be considered my competence on that particular language. If I internalize the grammar, it will be referred as my competence. And whenever I will be comprehending that language and I will be producing that language, it will be referred my performance. For example, if I know the structure of English language, so whenever someone will tell me a sentence in English language, I will be able to comprehend, and then I will be able to produce that form of language. And if I can do that, then it will be referring as my performance. And language acquisition studies are interested in how competence is developed. So whenever we are referring this second language acquisition, it will mostly interested in the competence, how the competence is developed, and of course it will also look at how learner performs, and that's how the measurement of second language acquisition can be measured. And then we have acquisition versus learning. So what do we understand by acquisition? Why cannot we say it is learning, or how come it is different? Acquisition is what we have referred as subconscious process. Whenever we have the focus of the language subconsciously. However, learning refers the conscious study. Whenever you are very much conscious, you come to the university premises or any institution organization to learn English, and that is the time we are referring, and that you are very much conscious. But Ellis in 1985 referred that acquisition and learning do not have any real distinction. They are pretty much same. You cannot make any differences between them. But Krashen referred that acquired knowledge serves major sources for initiating comprehension and production of utterances but not learned knowledge is available for use only by the monitor. So question says that whenever we are referring the acquired knowledge, it actually serves as major source of comprehension and production. According to Krashen, we have two different hemispheres, one is right and one is left hemisphere in our brain, and our left hemisphere has language areas, and whenever we acquire a language, that language area is occupied with that. But whenever we are learning language, there is a separate area for learning things or language. So the role of the first language. So is there any role of first language? So if I want to learn English language as my second language, will my first language will help? So the main situation is that it will interfere and it will also aid. Yes, learners L1 knowledge would interfere and aid L2 learning. Learners knowledge on L1 will have impact on L2, which is known as language transfer. So that means, for example, you know that the language, that means your first language is Bangla language, it is made of words and sentences. So that means it will help you to understand that the language you are going to learn has the similar pattern. That means it has words and sentences. So whenever you adapted this knowledge to your second language, it will be considered as language transfer. And whenever we will be studying the differences between L1 and L2, it will be referred as contrastive analysis. This is one of the critical topics, so definitely you will get it in your second language acquisition course. But whenever you will be trying to differentiate between the knowledge of your first language and second language, it will be referred as contrastive analysis. So are the learners different? Are the learners different from each other? So there are individual differences in the way learners learn a second language and the way they use their second language knowledge. So of course the learners are different and they learn differently. No two learners learn second language in exactly the same way. Factors that may make a learning differences, and what are the factors which can make different learners, which can consider or produce different learners, and those are aptitude, motivation, age, cognitive style, and personality. So in order to separate one second language learner to another second language learner, you need to consider whether they have these issues or not, whether they have similar aptitude or similar motivation or similar age or cognitive style or personality or not. If they have the similar level, then it might not be different. But it is very rare case that all the learners will have same aptitude, motivation, age, and cognitive style and personality. It cannot be same. It is pretty much impossible. So that's why every learner is different as well. So the role of input. So what do we mean by input first? Input is what we are giving. Or for example, you give something and you will get something in return. For example, if you work hard to learn this particular topic, and it will produce a good result for you. So definitely in order to get some output you need to put some input. If you do not study, you will not get any output. So SLA takes place only when the learner has access to L2 input. So in order to have second language acquisition, the learners need to have the access on second language input, and this input can be in the form of exposure in natural setting or formal instruction. So it can be spoken, it can be written, but in the form of exposure in natural setting or formal instruction. So whenever you will have formal instruction or whenever you will have exposure in natural setting, you will have more input. And the whole process of learning could be controlled by presenting the second language in the right size doses and continuation of practice until each feature was automatic. So in order to acquire the language, first you need to have controlled learning, and you need to have right size doses. That means for example, what Krashen said in his one of the hypotheses, that is input hypothesis, and under that input hypothesis he referred that if the learner gets proper input, and that is just one level upper than the learner's present level, then the learner will be able to learn the language. So the learner will study it and practice it, and they will do it until that becomes automatic. However, they do the things automatically. So the next section is the learner strategies or learner processes, how the learners do process the language. So what are the learner strategies? I still can remember that I can easily adopt different strategies to learn to learn and memorize during studying. I mean, while studying in my lower classes, or when I was a student, I adopted different processes and procedures, and I easily could identify that my other friends and relatives or brothers and sisters, they made different choices to learn a language. So for learner processes, we can easily identify three main strategies. First one is learning strategies, and then we'll have the production strategies, and then we'll have communication strategies. Whenever we'll refer learning strategies, that means the way the learners learn. So definitely that those are different, and conscious and behavioral, subconscious and psycholinguistic. So these are the ways a learner learns. These are the strategies a learner follows. And during producing, I mean, while producing this second language, that means that language, what are the strategies the learners follow? The learners attempt to use the second language which was acquired efficiently and clearly. So they try to use their knowledge on second language which they acquired efficiently and clearly. So they try to do that, and can be done by rehearsal of what should be said on discourse planning. So of course they need to have rehearsal, they need to plan it before producing it. I mean, before producing it in real life situation. And the last one is communication strategies, and by referring communication strategies, it refers as the learners attempt to communicate meaning for which they lack the requisite linguistic knowledge. So whenever they lack the linguistic knowledge, they will try to adapt the meaning. They might not understand and the meaning, so they might use differently in order to produce communication, and those production will be referred as communication strategies. The way the learners will adapt or introduce the communication will be referred as communication strategies. So the role of formal instruction. So what do we know by formal instruction? Formal instruction means whenever you are in a class and you are having formal instruction from a teacher to learn a language. For example, in my class, I tell my students to write something down on the blackboard or on their copy, and then sometimes I guided them about some features, and I do that by producing instruction, formal instruction. So the studies on formal instruction says that it does not change the natural route development or the order of learning. So formal instruction doesn't change the natural route of development or the order of learning. And the learners who receive formal instruction may learn more rapidly than those who don't. So it doesn't refer with the natural route, but it is related with the speed, with the time, how long it takes. So definitely it will formal instruction will reuse the time frame. And then formal instruction can have a powerful delay effect. So whenever the learner will have formal instruction, it will have a delay effect. For example, it might not produce the language instantly or immediately after the formal instruction from the teacher, but definitely it will have impact in the later conditions, in the later situations. So here is the framework of SLA. So we have the first one is situational factors. We have two different situations, and we have two different situations. When one is classroom SLA, and that's what we have said in the last slide as well. Whenever we are referring about this one, classroom SLA. So most of the students are out of the class, are in the class, and they learn the language in the classroom. And another one is we referred as naturalistic SLA. So whenever we are referring naturalistic SLA, we are saying that the learners are learning naturally. So two situations in there: learners learn in a classroom and the learners learn in naturalistic way. So, and then the input, of course, you need to give the input in order to produce output. So the better you will have input in English language, the better you will learn. And the learner differences, yes, learners are different, and learners are different based on their age, aptitude, and other issues. They will be different. And the learner processes, that means the learners are processing the language or the learned knowledge differently. So there are two issues in there. First one, they learn these things, and then in the output they produce these things. So based on this input and based on the learner processes, the linguistic output can be different as well. So if the learners have proper input, that means whenever we are referring about the right doses in there, and we will have learners processes working in there, how to learn the language or how to have or get the idea on that language, it will have better understood whenever you will be referring as linguistic output, because this output is varied on input and learner processes. So that's the framework we are referring. So if you want to follow this framework, it will help you to understand developing second language as well. So we have a material as well in this class, so I would like to suggest you to read carefully to identify the framework of SLA. So that's all. These are the references. Again, I have made a mistake that should not be there. It will be definitely the Rod Ellis book, and I have given the link of this book in the class section, so please follow there. So it is from the Rod Ellis, not from George Yun and other different sources, that means Krashen and other sources. So if you have any question, please do ask in forum. I do not find proper participation in the forum, but anything you like or dislike or the task, please do that in the forum. So thank you very much for being present, for being nice still the last second of this slide. Thank you again. Thank you very much.